from the Minnesota Department of Public Safety Office of Traffic Safety. Pam and Tim Reamer and Amanda Albrecht. You'll hear from Sergeant Tyler Millis of the Minnesota State Patrol, who is the coordinator of the Drug Recognition Evaluator Program for law enforcement statewide. Lieutenant Gordon Shank from the Minnesota State Patrol will speak. And I'd also like to welcome Canine Sergeant Nils Torning from the Cottage Grove Cottage Grove Public Safety Department, and Deputy Jason Sutherland from the Washington County Sheriff's Office. They're standing with us in support of traffic safety efforts and keeping Minnesotans safe on the road. With that, we'll start with Shannon Grable.
Hi, I'm Shannon Grable with the Office of Traffic Safety. Standing here at a cemetery is not exactly the picture most of us want to remember during the holidays. The holidays should be about laughter, enjoying family meals with your friends and family, playing games, or doing anything that your loved ones want to do. They should be about anything that brings joy and happiness to your family. But for Minnesotans like Tim, Pam, and Amanda, it's pretty tough to have that kind of holiday. When you lose a loved one in a traffic crash just weeks before a holiday and their birthday, after that point, the holidays will never be the same. Life for them has never been the same. Tim, Pam, and Amanda are not alone in their grief. Unfortunately, these types of tragedies on the road have only escalated since the pandemic. Traffic fatalities continue to soar, reaching numbers we haven't seen in more than a decade. Today, we've hit 452 traffic fatalities so far this year. That's the most since 2008, when we reached 455 fatalities for the entire year, and we still have more than a month to go. Every year, the Office of Traffic Safety coordinates a statewide holiday impaired driving campaign, which includes extra patrols to arrest impaired drivers. It can save the lives of the impaired drivers and your loved ones. It's an important campaign every year, but the current traffic safety crisis makes it especially critical for Minnesotans to drive smart and never drive impaired under the influence of any substance. Planning a safe ride to prevent impaired driving is the perfect holiday gift. It's the kind of gift that everyone will enjoy. Remember, the choices that you make today will affect the loved ones forever. Such was the case for the choice Brianna Reamer made more than 15 years ago. Here to speak about their daughter and sister are Tim, Pam, and Amanda.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tim Reamer. This is my wife, Pamela, and our daughter, Amanda. And I want to start off by saying this is very hard for us to do, but we want to do this because we don't want any other family to have to go through what we have gone through and are still going through to this day and beyond. 15 years ago, our lives changed. On November 11th, 2006, our oldest daughter, Brianna, died in a car crash 2 weeks before Thanksgiving and 2 weeks before her 20th birthday. We call it a car crash, not a car accident, because this didn't happen by accident. This happened on purpose because Brianna had been drinking and because of other decisions that Brianna made that night. We know what happened that night because of the technology in her car and because there was a witness that she passed at a high rate of speed just before she took an exit ramp off the interstate. The witness stated he had just left work at 3 a.m. and was on his way home when Brianna passed him at about 3:15 a.m. We know Brianna was going 99 miles an hour because her car had an SDM, that stands for Sensing Diagnostic Module. This module recorded her speed just before the crash happened. We know Brianna was texting. The exit had a curve to it, and Brianna misjudged that curve because she wasn't paying attention and was distracted. When we went to the crash site, we could see the marks in the cement of the road where Brianna had turned the front wheels of the car so hard, trying to steer back into the curve, that the tires folded under the rims and the rims cut into the pavement. The car hit the edge of the road and launched through the air, coming down about 70 feet from the road, where the car took a huge gouge out of the ground. This put the car into a roll. The car rolled several times. The witness said he saw headlights, taillights, headlights, taillights, etc. The car then hit a tree. You can see the indentation the tree made on the driver's side rear tire and fender. We know Brianna wasn't wearing her seatbelt because the car ended up about 10 feet from the tree, upside down, and Brianna was partially ejected out of the passenger side window, and her arm was pinned underneath the roof of the car. The witness called 911, and the first responders had to lift the car to get Brianna out from underneath. Brianna was taken to Regions Hospital, where the doctors and nurses tried to save her life. However, Brianna succumbed to her injuries and was pronounced dead at 5:37 a.m. We found out later that she had a blood alcohol content of 0.13, almost twice the legal limit. At 8 a.m., this is the hardest part for me. At 8 a.m., I got a call from Regions Hospital. I was just sitting down to have a bowl of cereal and start my day. The woman on the phone told me that she was a charge nurse at Regions Hospital. She asked me if this was where Brianna Reamer lives. I said, yes, I am her father. What's going on? The nurse says, I'm sorry to tell you this, but your daughter was in a car crash last night. I said, well, is she all right? The nurse said, no, she's gone. I said, no. She said, yes. I said, no. And she said, yes, I'm sorry. She didn't make it. I was in complete and utter shock. I said, so what do we have to do? I asked the nurse. She said, we needed to come down and identify Brianna's body. I can't tell you how hard that was to do. And I can't tell you how much I would have rather gotten woke up by a call from Brianna at 3:15 in the morning saying that she needed a ride home rather than getting that call I got at 8 a.m. It's been 15 years since that tragic night, and it still feels like it happened yesterday. One of my biggest regrets is that I never got to walk Brianna down the aisle for her wedding. I had to walk down the aisle with her in a casket. But that changed with Amanda. I was so happy that I got to see her a year ago in September get married, and I got to walk her down the aisle. That was one of the greatest days of my life. Every day we play the what if game. What if she had done this or that? What if we had done this or that? Well, guess what? Half of life is if. Life is spelled L-I-F-E. The word if is right there in the middle. That is one of the most profound things I have ever heard, and never really had thought about that before. You can play the what if game every day, but it won't change anything that has happened. What I want to say to Minnesotans and anyone who hears this is don't think that this can't or won't happen to you. Don't think that your actions and decisions will only affect you. You all have family and friends that care about you. Please understand that actions have consequences. If you are going to drink, do it responsibly. Make arrangements to get home safe. Wear your seatbelt. Don't text while you are driving. Drive the speed limit. Don't drive distracted or impaired. Thank you.
Thank you, Annie. Hi, I'm Pam Reamer. Until I became a mother, I never knew that my heart lived on the outside of me, and my two girls, Brianna and Amanda. Until 15 years ago, I never knew how badly my heart could break and how shattered my once perfect life could be. Tim and I are living with every parent's worst nightmare, the death of one of their children. I use the phrase living with because it isn't something you get over, move on, or forget. It's with you every single day. We share our story with hopes that we all make better choices not to drive while under the influence of drugs or alcohol, and that we all buckle up and stay off of our phones. I can't judge anyone because I'm guilty of all these things myself. When Brianna died, she died all alone. No one was holding her hand, saying, "I love you." And we didn't get to say goodbye. I'm sure she was wondering where her mom and dad were, because we have been with her for everything in her life. She didn't give them the opportunity to find us in time because she had someone else's ID on her. And because of that other ID is why we had to go down and identify Brianna's body. Our family took us to the hospital to do that. Brianna was hard to recognize. When Tim and I entered the room, our family knew it was Brianna by our cries and screams. We've had the horrible experience of holding our daughter's lifeless body in our arms. We walked into Regions Hospital hoping they were wrong, but we walked out in a world of pain and just with a bag of bloody clothes. She was gone. The struggle of getting through the holidays is painful and hard, and it is still 15 years later. We are sentenced to a lifetime of pain for the poor choices she made. The first year was extremely difficult, and the next 14 after that are just as difficult. What people don't understand is it continues every single day. There is no such thing as closure or an end. To this day, I still prolong going to bed knowing what is coming. When I wake up, I have to remember every morning that Brianna is gone, and tears start to fall. My heart breaks every morning. The holidays are always the hardest. The best we can hope for is to just make it through them. I used to decorate the house a lot, and now I'm lucky if I put up a tree. I spent many holidays and family gatherings, drinking too much or sitting in another room crying. Just seeing my family with their kids and knowing ours is incomplete. It hurts. I now make time to sit and cry before every gathering to try to get it out of my system so I don't ruin everyone else's day. A few years ago, on Christmas Eve, Tim and Amanda both had to work. I was extremely grief-stricken that day. I couldn't stand to be home alone. I didn't want to ruin anyone else's Christmas. So I went to the liquor store. I bought 2 bottles of alcohol. And I came out here. Just laid on Brianna's grave. I was planning on drinking the alcohol. Luckily, I found the strength to get up and go home without drinking. Once Amanda and Tim got off of work. When Brianna died, there was a long time that I couldn't function and I lost my will to live. Many parents turned to drinking, drug abuse, and suicidal. I've been down the road of all 3. 85% of marriages break up over the loss of a child. Families explode and you lose friends. That's the harsh reality. We've been to grief groups and counseling, and our family and friends have held us up until we were able to stand on our own. We are blessed with the best family and friends. Things that continue to happen that trigger our grief is hearing a song, a girl in the store calling out for her mom, seeing families of 4, seeing a red car, perfumes that might smell like Brianna's, and the empty chair at the table. Or even coming home to a piece of junk mail in your mailbox with Brianna's name on it. Those things happen every day. Brianna was a girl that you loved being around. She was so bubbly, funny, joyful. She lit up her room when she walked in. She was always singing. She was not our quiet child. But now our home is deafening silent. Please make plans for a sober ride home after a holiday party. You don't want to be us. You never think that this could happen to you, that it's always someone else. Once, we were you. Our next speaker is the reason I'm alive. She's my reason for living. Our beautiful daughter, Amanda. Thank you.
I'm Amanda Albrecht. I'm Brianna Reamer's sister. I'll never forget the last few times I got to see my sister 15 years ago. The images are burned in my brain, seeing her laying on the metal table full of the tubes that they haven't yet removed from trying to revive her for 2 hours that morning, and then seeing her in her casket. Her shirt was just low enough to see the autopsy incisions on her chest. She was even more bruised up than she was the day she died. I didn't know bodies continued to bruise after death. Brianna was so full of life. She was friends with everyone. There wasn't one person she didn't want to get to know. She didn't have room for hate in her heart. When you asked her what her favorite day was, she said every day. I recently saw a video I was in shortly after she died called On the Road. It killed me to see me as a young girl with so much pain behind my eyes. It's hard to even comprehend the things I went through at 16 years old. I had to grow up so fast. At 16 years old, I helped pick out a casket, design a headstone, and help pick out clothes for Brianna to wear in her casket. I missed a lot of school those next couple of years. I went to a lot of counseling and grief camp. Within a couple of years, I developed an eating disorder and had to go back to counseling. For years, I had nightmares of her dying again, And worse, I would have dreams of her being alive. I'd wake up thinking she was alive and go to her room to talk to her. It wasn't until I got to her door that I would realize that she wasn't going to be there. They say time heals all wounds, but clearly it doesn't, because 15 years later, I still struggle. I have severe anxiety over everything. Every missed call from friends and family, I assume something bad happened to them. I have a hard time throwing anything away. Everything is sentimental to me. I work at a hair salon. I learned fast to avoid the topic of if I have any siblings. If I say yes, it leads to more questions. Does she live close by? Are you guys pretty close? So then I have to kill the mood and explain that she died. But answering no to if I have any siblings was worse. I was faced with, oh, you're the only child? But then guilt kicks in because I'm not the only child, and I don't want to deny having my sister. So now I just avoid the topic at all costs. To this day, I can't listen to certain songs because they came out around the time of her death. The smell of certain flowers haunts me because we received so many flowers at her funeral. It automatically brings me back to that time. A year ago in September, I experienced the happiest day of my life. I got married. I wish that she could have been there physically, but I know that she was there with me in spirit. It really hurts me to think about how she will never get to experience those milestones herself. She will never experience the pure joy and love of starting a future with someone. It hurts to know that my husband will never meet Brianna. My future kids will never know her. Every year I take the day off of work on her death anniversary. I'll admit I felt a little ridiculous taking the day off 15 years later, but the truth is that day will never get easier for us. It's been 15 years, but there's always constant reminders, constant flashbacks, constant what-ifs. There's no way I could ever put into words how great of a person she was, but I know she's always with us. Brianna taught me how to draw a heart design, and now to this day she sends me hearts. Whether it's a leaf on the ground in the perfect shape of a heart, a splash of water, she even sent me a pickle in the perfect shape of a heart on my burger. These are the moments that keep me going now and let me know she's still with me. Brianna made one mistake that costed her her life. A couple months ago, for the first time in 15 years, I was mad at her for the ongoing pain my family goes through. But I refused to stay mad at her because she never would have done this if she knew the pain it would cause us. All it took was one mistake. I really wanted to share my story in hopes that it would help people make a better decision. I want to help others learn from her mistakes because she never got that chance. With the holidays coming up, there will be a lot of parties happening. There are so many options to get home safe these days. Please don't take a chance. And please, if you see someone trying to leave after they've been drinking, please stop them. You could save lives. Drinking and driving is not just a fine. It's not just a slap on the wrist. It can be so much more than that. My sister wasn't the only one who paid the ultimate price. We did too. We have to live with her choices the rest of our lives. Please don't do this to your friends and family. You see those electronic message boards over the highways, urging people not to drink and drive or to buckle up. Some of them have quite cringy sayings, and people just laugh it off, but they do have a deeper meaning, and to us it is real life. So when you see those message signs over the highway, or if you're at a party debating on if you should drive or not, please think of my family and the ongoing struggles we face. Think about us standing up here trying to save a life. Please don't drink and drive. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Sergeant Tyler Millis, and I have the privilege and honor of serving as a state trooper for the Minnesota State Patrol. I'm currently assigned as the Minnesota Drug Recognition Evaluator Program Coordinator, which focuses strictly on impaired driving. Oftentimes when we hear the term DWI, we think about alcohol. Well, alcohol, DWI, is the amount of people being arrested for this is going down. Drug-impaired driving arrests are increasing at a substantial rate, and we are focused on this right now. From 2018 to 2020, 58% of drug-impaired drivers, their toxicological samples tested by the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, 58% of them showed that they had 2 or more substances in their system at the time they were arrested. Again, these cases are going up at an alarming rate, and we're focused on this this holiday season to ensure that everyone makes it home safely. When we think about drugs and drug driving, we oftentimes think about the illicit substances such as methamphetamine, marijuana, cocaine, heroin, etc. But oftentimes we don't think about the substances like cough syrup, cold medicine, or prescription medications that we were prescribed by a doctor. What's important is when you are using these substances such as a prescription medication, read the label carefully. Oftentimes it'll tell you to use caution when operating heavy machinery. Heavy machinery does include a vehicle. On top of that, when you are taking cold medication during the season, as it gets cold out and the illnesses start to increase, if it makes you feel different, it will make you drive different. We urge the public to plan a sober ride. Again, if it makes you feel different, don't drive. Get someone to drive you to and from the location that you're trying to get. During the holiday season, maybe you have a little bit of anxiety going to see some family that you haven't seen in a while. Maybe you're newly prescribed a medication for that anxiety or some other condition that you may have. If you're newly taking a medication, really watch your body and ensure that this medication isn't making you act or feel differently. And if it is, either don't take it or wait until you get to your location to take that medication. And sometimes people are arrested for impaired driving when they didn't mean it. A few years back, I was called to do a drug recognition evaluation for a local police department. When I arrived at the police department, I was met by an older lady who was having some health issues, and she was prescribed a bunch of new medications and took them as she was prescribed. Well, what she didn't realize is that mixing these substances actually impaired her and caused her to be a danger to the motoring public as she was driving around. Again, if it makes you feel different, it will make you drive different as well. During this holiday season, if local agencies or police agencies stop a vehicle for suspected impaired driving, they're not just going to focus on alcohol, they will be focused on drug impaired driving as well. And know that one death is too many on our roadways. In 2015, there was 598 drug impaired driving arrests. Compared to 2020, there was 2,025. Again, this is increasing at an alarming rate, and we need to be cautious of this. From 2015 to 2020, the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension analyzed toxicological samples at an increase of 94% from the years prior. So again, this is becoming a huge issue and is continuing to rise. One way to keep everyone safe on the road, again, besides watching our bodies and being aware of how it makes us feel, again, just get a sober driver. Plan a sober ride. Don't drive. If it makes you feel different, don't drive. Some medications, when you take them on their own, they won't impair you. But when you start mixing these medications with alcohol or marijuana or some other substances, the combination of those can cause you to be impaired and drive dangerously. If you have any questions about the medications and how they might affect your body, be sure to ask your doctor or a pharmacist. Really know what you're putting in your body before you do it. Lastly, I'll leave you with this. Reminder on top of impaired driving, we want you to buckle up this season, put away all your distractions, drive the speed limit, and during inclement weather, please slow down even further. And again, always plan a sober ride so that we can make sure all of Minnesotans arrive to their destination safely this holiday season. Thank you.
Good morning. Lieutenant Gordon Schenk with Minnesota State Patrol. I have the honor and privilege of serving as the Public Information Officer for the State Patrol. Thanksgiving is a great time of year. It's one of my favorites, and we want people to have a great time. We want you to get to where you need to go safely, but we're also committed to the safety of the roadway. Starting tomorrow through New Year's Eve, we will have extra DWI patrols. Over 300 Minnesota law enforcement agencies will be committed to that goal of making sure you drive safely. I had a long list of things I was going to talk about, but I think the Rimmer family said it best, and I thank you for doing this. We really appreciate it. As a parent, it's hard not to get teary-eyed about this, but it's tough. If you're not going to do it for anybody, do it for your family. It's hard to, excuse me, it's hard to see those things happen and the impact that it has. And your family's changed forever, and 15 years later, it's still hard for them to be up here and talk about this. So make sure you make the right choice. Have a plan. That plan includes you not driving. And I can tell you from people that have been arrested, if they went back and were fortunate enough to be arrested, if they could change one thing that night, they would have called a friend, a family member, a cab, whatever it may be. Make that plan. And if they're fortunate enough to look back and say, I should have done this, that's a win for them, because there's families that never have that option of talking to that family member again about what they should have done. So have a plan, have a great Thanksgiving. We want you to have a great time. Just do it safely, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Thank you to the Reamers. Very moving. We appreciate your message. At this time, we'll open it up for any questions.
Tell us a little bit of what about her, what she was like. Serious, funny, we never met her. I like
Brianna was very funny, goofy, silly.
Ditzy.
Her grandmother would definitely say ditzy. She was a great student in school. She loved softball. Her friends. Amanda was more of our responsible child. Even though Brianna was older, when Brianna was babysitting Amanda, we would tell Amanda, you're really the one in charge. Brianna just loved having a good time, and we did have the talks with her about drinking and driving, and we've been very open with both of our girls. And but she was a very fun, loving. Everybody thought, she was their best friend, which she was. She said, "I love you, Mommy and Dad," and Sissy. She'd always call Amanda Sissy. And she wasn't afraid to express her love.
One of my favorite stories about Brianna was I was washing the car out in the driveway one day, and she came out of the house on her way to see a friend, and I said, "Where are you off to?" And she says, "I'm off to see the wizard." And I said, "Okay, be sure to ask for a brain." And she's like, "Oh, Dad." Oh, it was funny. Sure.
First, the reporter would like to know where your family is from, and if you don't mind, can you describe specifically where the crash took place?
Yes. So we lived in Cottage Grove here for over 13 years, and we moved in 2004. We now live in just over the border in Wisconsin. And we're technically between Prescott and River Falls. The accident took place on Highway 694 North and what's now known as Exit 5. It's the Lake Elmo exit. And so she was northbound on 694 and taking the off-ramp to go to Highway 5 to go into Lake Elmo when it happened on that ramp.
So with that, without any further questions, for those of you watching online, if you'll just give us a moment, the Reamer family would like to lay flowers at the grave of their daughter. We'll arrange that and provide that video for you in just a moment. Thank you.
So we're just going to move this if you just hold up 1 second. And photographers, just let us know when you're ready and they'll go do their thing. Okay. All right. Go ahead, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. You want a shot? I'm sorry, I didn't want to. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, he's just good. Thank you so much. This was great. That was very powerful.
Thank you very much for your words. It really means a lot to us. Thank you. It really is heartfelt.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
This is just the